The views and opinions expressed by the host do not reflect that of the store and its management. Furthermore, the views and opinions expressed by the guest do not reflect that of the host, the show, the store, and the network.
Mas mabilis ang kwentuhan gabi-gabi.
Mga maiinit na balita ng mundo.
Mga pinag-uusapang pangalan.
Diretsahan na tapatan.
Lahat ng kailangan niyong malaman.
Sa loob ng 20 minuto.
Acob and Barcena tonight.
Magandang gabi, bayan.
Magandang gabi, Pilipinas.
Today, we are celebrating Regions of the World Day as we get together with one another.
Right, Jam? Ha 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 ha. That's why tonight we have invited economists, professors, and many more. Ha 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 ha.
Kaya't wag na tayong magpatumpik-tumpik pa. Let's welcome two doctors of economic, Dr. Abing and Abuloc. Good evening, doctors.
Since we're celebrating Regions of the World Day, I'm curious, can you explain to us what is the differences of region, regionalism, and regionalization?
So, regions is a group of countries that are linked by geographical relationship and by the degree of mutual interdependence. The Europe, Africa, Middle East, Southeast Asia, North and South America are just some of the regions in the world. For regionalism, it is a political process characterized by economic policy, cooperation, and coordination among the countries. It is intended to express the common sense of identity while achieving the common goals and improving the quality of life. Regionalism is also a process that happens in a conscious level. That means that the people or the state of a particular region is consciously forming a regional organization according to regionally accepted norms and values. Lastly is the regionalization. It refers to the regional concentration of economic flows, and it is also the process of dividing an area into smaller segments that is called regions.
Historically, a region was defined as a space within a state that existed between the national and the local. The term microregion or subnational region may capture this meaning. However, the term region can also refer to macroregions, also known as world or international regions, which are larger territorial units as opposed to non-territorial units or subsystems. On another note, the body of ideas, values, and goals that contribute to the creation, maintenance, or modification of a specific region or type of world order is referred to as regionalism. It is usually associated with a formal policy and project, and it frequently leads to the establishment of institutions. Furthermore, regionalism binds agent to a specific project that is socially but not chronologically limited. Regionalization, on the other hand, refers to the process of region formation. It implies a focus in the process by which regions emerge and consolidate, or they're becoming as it were. In its most basic sense, the term may imply nothing more than a regional concentration of goods, services, investment, people, and ideas.
What great answers coming from our fellow doctors. Now here's the second question. Since we are talking about regionalism, can you tell its connection with globalization?
Regionalism has occurred in response to the spread of globalization in order to preserve the distinct cultural identity. So regionalism has responded to globalization through an increase in cultural identities and the rise of regionalist parties. So both regionalism and globalization aims for the growth of economy and movement of economic integration.
Regionalism has been linked to globalization. While globalization entails increased interdependence among states, regionalism facilitates this dependence. For example, the European Union provides states with the foundation for free trade and thus a stepping stone toward globalization. Regional trade blocs have then provided states with the opportunity to increase communication, contact, and trade. In other words, an opportunity for globalization.
Oh, now I know. Kasi kanina pa ako nalilito dyan eh. Ngayon, Let's hear from a professor from Ateneo de Manila University, Professor Alvarado, Beduya, and Bolleros.
Professor Bolleros, if you don't mind, I heard you were once part of NGOs before going to US. Can you give us some insight about non-government organizations, or what they call NGOs?
So, NGOs or non-governmental organization is one that is formed independently from the government. They are typically non-profit organizations that are involved in humanitarianism and social sciences. They may also include groups or associations that provide services to their members. And it is a volunteer organization with a social mission. For example, the Red Cross. They are accepting volunteers to help them promote what their organization aims to do.
Interesting. Now, Professor Alvarado, dito sa bayan natin, there are still issues about violations of human rights, harm and mistreatments of indigenous people. As an advocate, here's the question. As an advocate and former leader of an NGO, how do you deal with these issues?
Violence and mistreatment to the indigenous people are not a rare scenario that I dealt with in my time as a leader of an NGO and as an advocate of human rights. It is not easy to eradicate those usual happenings, but it can be lessened through tightening the protection for the indigenous people in a way of having a weekly forum to hear their voices, having a trusted and authorized person in a certain place that they can call to when this violence and mistreatment happen, and strengthening the justice to prevail in a way of addressing the issue as soon as possible in a fair way.
Oh, that's amazing! Nakakaloka! Professor Beduya, I heard that you aspire to be a politician. So if you were to become president, how would you pursue the national interest while forming alliances with other nations?
If I were to become the president, I would not create any useless intense tension between other countries and ours, unless they have crossed their boundaries and affected us. Instead, I would continue the existing harmony between other countries and ours, so that it could sustain into the peaceful life that everyone has. Also, I would be more focusing on making alliances, since through making alliances, we can achieve political and global stability as well as military success.
Now, let's have a little fun. Since we have mentioned kanina na you guys were members of NGO, we want you to say a project that would initiate social change.
If I were to think of a project that would initiate social change, I would name it Raise Your Flag Movement, a project in which different genders, colors, or races are welcomed, and this project promotes diversity. I believe that through promoting diversity, a lot of people would realize that there's no need for discriminating other colors, there's no need for discriminating other genders. There is a need for acceptance, and through this I believe that social change would be initiated.
I think for me, I can suggest is Kapit Bisig Hanap Buhay program, where people who have no proper job will make use of their talents and skills through working with other indigenous people. It is a teamwork, cooperation, and brainstorming type of work where they can create new things from their given talents and skills as a whole and gain profit from it. I think is a good thing, for it requires socialization and communication to each other in order to have a good work.
I would suggest the Sustainable Renewable Energy Program that aims to expand the access of the poor people to the electricity. And it is less costly, since we can utilize the energy from the natural surroundings. Solar power is our main source of energy since we all know that here in the Philippines it is super hot and we could make use of it.
Oh, that's really nice because I see that you guys are true advocates and it really warms my heart. Almost nakakaiyak.
Huwag ka munang umiyak, partner, dahil may dalawa pa tayong guest.
Oh, tama ka dyan, Jam. So guys, we have on the call the directors of UN, Miss Dela Rosa and Miss Aguirang.
Good evening.
Good evening, Jam and Jonah. How are you? Thank you so much for inviting me.
Hi, Direct. I'm good. And now I have a question. Earlier, we were talking about regionalism, and I had a question, but I forgot. But now I remember. So I'm gonna ask you, how does regionalism face challenges?
Oh, John, we actually face multiple of them, and sometimes we just don't realize it. Some are even clueless.
That's right. Just last week we received several cases, particularly in Europe, because since the war in Ukraine or the problem in Ukraine and Russia is still sadly ongoing.
Earlier, I was just reading the news about it, and at the same time, here in the Philippines, we are greatly experiencing global price shock and trading disruptions. Now, here's the question. Is this related on what's happening between Ukraine and Russia? And if it is, how can we lessen the impact to our country and to the others as well?
Yes, Ram, it's sad but it's true. Though we are geographically far from Ukraine or Russia, we are still greatly affected by it, and other nations too, because Ukraine and Russia, especially Russia, are major players in the global market.
And there's no doubt how the Filipinos are suffering from the oil price shock, but we can lessen its impact by forming alliances with other members of OPEC like Indonesia.
Oh, that's really nice, no? Because even though I can tell na yung price of oil is really mahal na, kaya nga, di ba, I switched to electric-powered appliances? Di ba, Jam? Anyways, let's call the previous guest because it's time for Open Mic. Oh, we have a caller. Hello? What's your name and tell us what you have learned for tonight's episode?
Greetings, this is Bautista. In today's episode enlightens me on how regionalism and regionalization works, and also how NGOs handle their issues to people. Furthermore, how we deal the war between Russia and Ukraine.
And that's it for tonight's episode. So we would like to thank our guest,
Dr. Abing and Abuloc, Professor Bolleros, Alvarado, and Beduya. And last but not the least, Director Dela Rosa and Aguirang.
Magandang gabi, Pilipinas!
Magandang gabi, bayan!
This has been
Acob
and Barcena.
Tonight!